Hounds, welcome to my horror house. I'd like to talk to you about Abigail, which I was lucky enough to see yesterday. One of these movies with such a neat concept that as soon as you hear about it, certainly as soon as I saw the trailer for Abigail, I was sort of like pushing all my chips into the centre of the table. I'm all in on this. A group of career criminals are put together to kidnap a little girl. They need to keep her in a safe house for 24 hours whilst her rich, anonymous to them father is leaned on for $50 million. What they don't realise is that the safe house is a cage and they're trapped inside with not a little girl, but a bloodthirsty vampire who, as she says in the trailer, what can I say? I like to play with my food. Sold right there. Essentially, it's almost bulletproof. If you deliver on that concept, I will be happy. And I would say that Abigail does solidly deliver on the concept. So, yeah, I'm happy. What it doesn't do, I mean, we have had an embarrassment of horror riches recently. What it doesn't do, like Immaculate recently, The First Omen recently, doesn't do the odd thing here or there to just push it up into the next level. So what I would say is Abigail is a solidly executed, excellently acted by everyone, ship in a bottle story, put a group of disparate people together in this effed up situation and see what happens. The little vampire girl, Abigail, is a ballerina. If you've seen the trailer, you'd have seen all of her little flourishes she does as she moves along, her little pirouettes and going up on point and things like that, and leaping around and doing ballet moves while she's attacking her food. She loves it, and it's absolutely glorious to watch. I think it's really tricky. Everything that they put in the trailer absolutely hooked me in, but while I was watching it, I was thinking, okay, you're delivering absolutely everything you promised to deliver. But unfortunately, you had to promise it to get me into the cinema, and now I'm just seeing what I was expecting, if that makes sense, without any extra surprises. It made me think of From Dusk Till Dawn in a weird kind of way. I know that there were people who went to see From Dusk Till Dawn expecting just a sort of standard Quentin Tarantino scripted Robert Rodriguez movie about verbose criminals on the run. And so when the turn happens and it becomes a vampire movie, for some, that was an absolute shock. And what a joyous experience that must have been. I went in knowing that was going to happen. I wanted to put my money down to watch a vampire movie. And as with Abigail, I wanted to put my money down to watch this excellent little vampire scenario play out. But an awful lot of the movie plays out as if this is going to be a revelation. And if they had held that back and just advertised it as this crime caper version of Agatha Christie's And Then There Were None, I don't think I'd have bought a ticket. But the downside to that is there was nothing in there to especially excite or elevate it above what I already knew I was getting. If that sounds incredibly picky, I wholly hold my hands up and accept that I'm being insanely picky. But I have recently had the absolute pleasure of going to see a surprisingly good Omen prequel and in Immaculate, another nun movie that did things which surprised, shocked and delighted me. It is brought to you by various people who are responsible for Scream 5 and 6 and Ready or Not, and it has more in common, I think, with Ready or Not than the recent Scream movies, apart from obviously an inherent ability to plot and direct a large number of people and sort of manipulate them and keep everything peppy and pizzazzy, as you have to do with Scream movies as well. Ready or Not succeeds more than this for a couple of reasons. One, Ready or Not does have a sort of underlying satire to it. It is one of the sort of small glut of eat the rich type movies that we were getting around that time. And that just tickles me anyway. But more importantly, narratively baked into the setup of Ready or Not is the reason lots of people are running around a large mansion at night. Whereas with Abigail, the script a few times does have to creak its way into forcing situations where our group split up and explore a mansion, which didn't feel as organic and as genuine as it does in Ready or Not. The concept, as I say, is absolutely bulletproof. It's one of those story ideas that as soon as I saw the trailer and knew what the setup was, I just thought, why didn't I think of that? And while I was watching, part of my brain was thinking, okay, if I had have come up with this absolutely golden scenario, how would I have sort of presented it in prose form? How would I have put this into a really neat sort of nitrous oxide fuel injected little novella that just goes for the throat and doesn't ever stop? I do like to try and think of these things with my writer's brain. It's not something I necessarily talk about a lot here on this channel because it's much more about the movies, but I should try more. And so if you think, oh well, he's just griping about stuff and why doesn't he put his money where his mouth is, this is my money where my mouth is, my collection of horror short stories, 17 stories of death and desire. And I think there's some good horror stuff in there. You can get it from Amazon ebook or paperback, and if you do check it out, please let me know what you think. All honest feedback is welcome. That said, everyone in the cast is exceptional. There is not a duff note in the whole thing. So if you want to watch a really well executed, crazy people trapped in a mansion with a vampire scenario, this will deliver it in spades. Alicia Weir, who plays Abigail, absolutely knocks it out of the park. When was it that child actors stopped being cringe and became excellent? It seems to me sort of Haley Joel Osment in The Sixth Sense and thereabouts and AI was for a time almost the exception to the rule, and then after him or around about that time, child actors just became actors. Alicia Weir is phenomenal in this role as both a little girl and an ancient vampire. Melissa Barrera is eminently watchable. It is a shame that she won't be in Scream 7. I really warmed to her over the 2 Scream movies that she was in. Uncertain with Scream 5, really came around to become a cheerleader for her in Scream 6. But, onwards and upwards, I wish only the best for her. Catherine Newton is fantastic. She leavens the bread a lot. Really fun to see Kevin Durand back. I first was introduced to him in The Strain, and he's a great, easygoing screen presence. Dan Stevens, in a role completely different to... I've recently seen him on the big screen in Godzilla x Kong, and he was unrecognisable to me in this. No spoilers in this movie, but there's a tiny little role right at the end of the movie that almost steals the entire movie out from underneath the feet of everyone. And that was the moment where I was really sort of got a little tingle of something elevated, something a little bit special that I wasn't expecting. So, yes, it seems to me that I'm griping a little bit about the fact that the film delivered what the trailer told me it was going to deliver, which does seem a bit mealy-mouthed of me. So we've had a great old time for horror cinema recently, I think. We might be going into a bit of a dry spell soon. Well, the trailers I've seen attached to all of these other films, none of them interest me much, but I would like to think that moving forwards, we could maybe claim spring as a second horror season. I'm quite happy to have a clutch of horror movies come out in spring, and a clutch of horror movies, as is tradition, come out late September, early October, around Halloween season. And let's have 2 bites of the apple each year. I'm well up for that. These run of horror movies in springtime have been an absolute joy and a delight.
I bid you welcome.
I welcome you to my house.
Welcome to my house.
Welcome to my home.